As a podcaster, I'm also a pretty avid podcast listener. And recently I noticed something interesting. Several different shows I follow all started talking about the same topic: polyamory and other non traditional relationship structures. The more I listened, the more I realized I had a lot of questions. Not because I'd formed strong opinions, but because I simply hadn't been exposed to many thoughtful conversations about it. And yet, research suggests that about 1 in 5 Americans at one point or another have participated in some form of consensual non monogamy. It's one of those topics that exists in our culture but often isn't explored beyond headlines, stereotypes, or quick takes. So I reached out to someone whose work has been helping people think more deeply about relationships for years. Sophie Lucido Johnson is a writer, cartoonist, and the author of several books, including Kin, The Future of Family, Dear Sophie, Love Sophie, and Many Love. Her writing and creative work has appeared in The New York Times, The New Yorker, Chicago Reader, and Bon Appetit, and she's been a guest on numerous podcasts discussing relationships, communication, and connection. Whether this topic is completely new to you or you've been curious about it for a while, my hope is that you'll walk away from this conversation with a better understanding of what polyamory is, and maybe just as importantly, what it isn't. Here we go. Sophie Lucido Johnson, welcome to It's Gonna Be Fine.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I thought maybe it would be great to jump in and start with some definitions, just to sort of like set the tone, set the conversation. I think a lot of people, including me, before I started researching it, sometimes maybe tend to lump things together. So a couple terms that I know are different that I'm hoping you can help clarify for us. Polyamory, open relationship, and then maybe consensual non-monogamy.
Sure. Okay. So polyamory is it's multiple loving relationships, and there's the underlying factor of every person in those multiple relationships consents to the relationship structure. So it was coined, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little rusty because this is all kind of from this research I did is all like from 10 years ago, but polyamory is kind of an old term. I think it was coined in the 1990s, and it's a weird word. I like it because poly and amory, one is Greek and one is Roman, so they're not, or Latin, so they're not sort of the same world. So to me, it matches the sort of odd structure of the relationship type itself. Historically, it's that consensual piece that makes it different from other relationships. Open relationship is often sort of a relationship where both people, or let's start with two people, have agreed that it's okay for them to see other people or to engage with sexual activity with other people. But this can encompass like a lot of different types of relationship structures, like just it's okay if you hook up, but don't tell me about it, like a don't ask, don't tell type of a model, where polyamory doesn't allow for that. So it's more like, you know how all squares are rectangles and not all rectangles are squares. Yeah. Like all polyamorous relationships are open, but not all open relationships are polyamorous. And then you said consensual non-monogamy or ethical non-monogamy. Those are terms that sprang up in the last, in the last 5 or 6 years. And frankly, they just mean the same thing as polyamory. But polyamory had kind of gotten a bad rap. And because that word consensual was not, or ethical was not in the word itself, people wanted to be more explicit about the fact that this was intentional and everybody who was involved in these relationships were consenting to them. So it's the same, but, fancy new words.
Yes. One of your book, Many Love, I actually was wondering why you called it Many Love and not like Many Loves.
Yeah, I mean, it has to do with the language derivation.
Yeah, because when you define polyamory, it's many love, correct?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't talk about it in there. I mean, I think it tickled me.
Yeah.
In 2018, I thought, it doesn't make sense, but it does, or whatever, Yeah. It all kind of matched how my experience was with that relationship style, which is that it's not neat and it doesn't always feel like it fits into a mold, but it works and people figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
But all polyamorous relationships are a little bit different. And so, it's wonky.
Yes. There's another term you used in your book, which I had never heard of before. Compersion. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Compersion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you define that one for us?
Yeah, and that one is kind of as old as polyamory. So, polyamorous relationships do date back to the origin of relationships, and in Western culture, like all the way back to the 1800s, and it used to be sort of like common in certain sects of Christianity for there to be. I mean, you may be thinking right now of the Mormon wives, but I'm talking actually about something more akin to polyamory, though those groups disbanded or were cults or whatever. So this is not new, but in the 90s when the whole thing got a rebrand, this is post free love of the 1960s, and the fallout of the 70s and 80s, and the 90s is trying to resurrect it. It means the opposite of jealousy. So it's that feeling that is the opposite of jealousy, particularly in these romantic relationships where if your partner goes out with somebody else, you feel really excited for them. So instead of feeling jealous, you find in yourself like this, you're lit up because this person is experiencing something that is making them really happy. And I feel like you can experience it outside of relationships too. Like you're, in this professional podcasting space, or if you're a writer or creative, that feeling you get when your friend publishes a book or an article or like gets an award. And, it makes sense to be jealous of that. But there's also sometimes you're like, wow, I'm just really genuinely feeling so happy for them and like excited on their behalf. And that would be compersion.
Got it. Okay. We're going to talk about jealousy a bit because you dedicated, I think, a whole chapter to it. And I have definitely some questions. But before we get there, one thing that really struck me when I first came across you as, someone who is an expert on this, it was through an article in the Chicago Magazine. And from 2019, maybe, I think, the article, and specifically in interviewing you, it talked about the idea that most people or many people don't arrive at polyamory because, it quote unquote sounds exciting. It's more they arrive there because maybe the traditional relationship structure wasn't working for them for whatever reason. It just something wasn't working. What do you think most people misunderstand about why someone explores something like polyamory?
Yeah, I mean, everybody comes to it for different reasons, so it's hard to say exactly why people come to it, but I would say that if you're going into an ethical non-monogamy sort of a configuration and you're in your early 20s and you don't know what the heck you're doing, it's very likely that that's going to it will maybe be a phase, or you'll end up in a more monogamous configuration. And that's sort of the stereotype, is that, this is too much work and nobody actually really wants to be in this type of relationship. And it's not like a long-term solution for, what we long for, which is deep, intimate connection. I came to polyamory because I had been a serial monogamist. I went through a breakup. And the breakup just felt so frustrating because nothing was wrong in the relationship. But the way that we exist in monogamous partnerships is such a binary. Like you're either in the relationship or you're out of it. And there's no, like, what I really wanted at that stage was like, can we actually transition into a close, intimate friendship? I would really like to keep all of these things that are working, and the things that aren't working, it would be nice if they worked, but I could work, we could keep working on the relationship, but you go out and date somebody else and I'll go out and date other people. But instead it's like you have to shut the whole thing down. That was not working for me anymore. And I decided to look into other avenues, and, I started dating, and was not feeling like I wanted to get deeply committed in a long-term way to anybody for a while, but love finds you anyway. And I met my now husband in 2015, I'll say. We were poly. And so we both dated other people. And the trouble really is that there's only so much time. So I started dating like 2 other people, and that all happened really quickly, which means I'm still with them. So like those relationships are still working. So now I'm kind of closed. Like I don't have enough
capacity,
time
yeah.
to keep bringing more people on board. But all three of those relationships are really, really boring and functional. I wish they were more dramatic because I could write about them more, but they mostly are just really stable. And a lot of that is because what a lot of us need in relationships can't be met by one person. In fact, I'd argue that nobody can get all their needs met by one person. I just don't think it's possible. And we get around that by finding close friendships or suffering. It's like one of the two.
Yeah.
But I guess I feel like a really, really close friendship actually fits under my umbrella definition of polyamory. And that's really what my newer book is sort of about these friendships that cross over past friend, but like they're not romantic, but there's something in between there that they become like kin, like somebody who's closer to you.
And worth nurturing.
Right, exactly. My husband is like, he's, this is so typical. This is going to sound sexist, but he's just like not a feelings talker. But my girlfriend is, and it's instead of asking him to change and be different and like want to have connective conversations around my big feelings about work, I just don't. I go to her for that particular need. That doesn't mean I don't like talk to him about those things. It's just that if I feel unsatisfied in the conversation, instead of saying, "Oh, that's your fault and you need to change. I need you to be different." People don't, or it's not fair to ask people to change. I don't think. That's sort of my philosophy around that. So anyway, I got personal on that, but because the reason I did that is because I feel like people do all arrive there for really different reasons. And, the misconception is that it's like everyone wants to have sex with a million people and that's why you do this. And in fact, like a lot of needs are not sexual that are not being met in traditional monogamous relationships. So that would be my gripe.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I'm wondering about people who decide it's not for them. Like, because I think you mentioned too that polyamory is not for everyone. So,
oh God, no, right?
Yeah. So the ones who say like it's not for me or who don't want to explore it, yet maybe their partner is not meeting all of their needs. Is it a cultural thing that you think holds them back? Is it just, what the typical norm is? What do you think might hold people back, or the people that it's not right for?
I like to say that if you're going to choose love, like you're going to choose one set of sacrifices one way or the other. So if you're in a monogamous relationship, it's like an obvious sacrifice. You're sacrificing making physical romantic connections with anybody else ever again for the rest of your life. And you're just giving that up. And actually, that's so beautiful. Like, what an amazing thing to say, I love you so much and I want to create this like barrier of trust that means you can believe that we don't need to we don't need to deal with this extra layer of, dating other people. I'm sacrificing that. I'm giving that up because I want to like give you this trust.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. When you're in a polyamorous relationship, you sacrifice emotional comfort. Like you don't get to just trust that things are going to stay the same or that someone's going to promise for something to stay in one place. You're saying, I'm acknowledging that I'm going to go into some really scary, upsetting emotional spaces, and I'm going to trust that we'll get through them. But repeatedly, I'm going to experience things like jealousy and unsureness, and we're going to have like lots of long talks. And so you're sacrificing the comfort of not having to do that. And so that's also a huge sacrifice, and what a beautiful thing, because you're committing to having these like ongoing, lifelong conversations. I like to think about it as like water, like it's always going to be in motion and you don't know where it's going to go, and there's just nothing sure about it. It comes to which of those sacrifices feels better for you if you, in your love life. And I can understand both completely. A lot of times I talk to people who say, well, I would love to date other people, but I just can't fathom the idea of my partner dating other people. I can't deal with it. I feel like so jealous just even thinking about it because they'll say it as like, I love them so much, I just don't want to share them or whatever. But I know that I could share myself or whatever, or whatever it is. And to me, that's that's the articulation of like, I'm not willing to make the sacrifice of discomfort. I don't want to do that sacrifice.
Yeah.
So, and also I don't want to do the sacrifice of never sleeping with anybody else. So I'd really like to have the best of both worlds. And to me, that's not love. That's, you get to have sex with people,
Right.
which is fun and not a bad thing. That's, a lot of people live their lives that way forever. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah. So that sacrifice piece when it comes to love is kind of like the through line.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think love, I really strongly believe that like love is hurt. It hurts exactly as much as it's worth. Like that's the deal. Like if you're entering into it, the more it feels good, the more it's going to hurt, because the best case scenario is somebody dies.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, it's just what you sign up for. And we do.
Yeah.
And it's maybe uniquely human, but like so beautiful. And it's why we have art. So
Yes. You mentioned a word that I was going to ask you about, because you said multiple relationships, people might think it's drama or dramatic. But from what I think you had spoken on a podcast where you said that your experience has been actually different. You just mentioned you kind of have like boring relationships now. There's no drama. I'm curious if you can talk more about that conception too, that more equals drama, and how that hasn't been what you've experienced.
So there's this documentary that I'm in from around that era. It's called, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the title of it wrong, but it's something like, I always want to call it More Than the One, but it's not quite that, but it's something like that. It's from The Cut. And the documentarians focused on two central relationships. It's mine and my husband's and our, partners. And then also this other couple who lives in New York. And this video has been viewed on YouTube like millions of times. Like it's just tons of people have watched it. I've had like former students say they've watched it in other classes. Like it's, it's just one of these early polyamory documentaries. And the comments in that video are just only about the other couple, as though we're not even in it. Like it's just like, and it's thousands of comments, because that relationship is clearly abusive, and you can see it. Like you can see how the man in that relationship is possessive, angry, like he wants to have it both ways. The woman who's in the central relationship feels really scared. She doesn't feel like she wants to be in this type of relationship configuration, but she's convinced herself that that's something wrong with her. And you're watching it, and like that's the one that people look at. And then in the comments, it's like, this is why polyamory doesn't work. This is like a perfect example. And meanwhile, like our wedding, we said we'd do the documentary because they came to our wedding, and then we got free video services for our wedding. And it's half of the documentary, but like that's not interesting to people, and that makes sense. It is working. It works. It's just not. It doesn't have the pieces that make you want to keep watching the show. Like people, when they're looking at love, they're looking for things to not work. They're looking for problems, and it is kind of boring. Like it's like, I love my husband. I have nothing to say about him that is negative. I would change nothing about him. We have a kid. I have a girlfriend. My kid calls her dad. Oh. I have, a boyfriend, but it's long distance. And all of it is like just solo drama. I mean, we just talk about, but we've been together for a really long time. All of it, I've been with him for like 13 years. I've been with her for 8. And there was some difficulty over, are we going to have a kid? That was a big question. Sure. And what does that mean for our configuration? But here's what it means. It means that my kid has more grown-ups in her life who love her, and more people to watch her, and more people who I can put on her emergency contact list. I'm sorry, but that's really boring. Like it's just not what people want to hear. Yeah. They don't, especially when it's not like the life you want confirmation that the relationship style you're choosing, which is statistically probably not polyamory, to be wrong. You want to think like that's wrong and sick and something that doesn't work. And in fact, it's just, different things work for different people. Yep. And that needs to be okay with you. Yeah. But it's shocking, like how not okay it is with people, like how many people when I have a different name at school because I don't
Oh,
want people to know that this is work I do, because as soon as other parents find out, they're like out of our life. And that sucks. It
yeah.
feels so unfair, but it really is still quite stigmatized, and it's a bummer. I thought it would have changed by now,
Yeah,
but
you would
it's
think
maybe
so.
gotten worse.
Really? You think it might have gotten worse?
Well, when I was in my 20s, everyone I knew was in their 20s, and we were all kind of doing weird
Whatever,
stuff.
yeah.
And now I'm 40, and this is no longer cute. So I don't know. It does feel sad to
Sure.
but in other ways, people self-edit themselves out of your life.
Yeah.
You don't want to be around people who aren't open to your thing.
Right, totally. And I mean, I don't know if this helps or not, but the fact that you're committed to it and you still do it because it's right for you, that says a lot, and that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it does too. I mean, my relationships are the thing in my life I feel most like confident and sure about, and it is boring, but it's great.
It's interesting you brought up the piece about how it's still sad, because I'm going to ask you at the end a little bit about where you think things might be going. But before we get to that, another thing I wanted to ask you about is communication, because I think it was you who said that it was either in like an article or in the book, I just can't remember at the moment, that you were surprised when you first brought this idea, I think to your current husband, how they reacted. Like you were scared of the communication, but then when you finally did it, the way that they reacted to it, you were surprised. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, wow, I have to compliment you on all the research that you've done. It's really impressive, and I like it.
I appreciate that.
And I've not touched this book in so long, but I do vaguely remember the scene. I remember like drawing out the talk bubbles, like going back and forth between the... Yeah, I think early on, see, communication is now so simple and straightforward. And frankly, like our daughter's 4, so like basically that just takes up all of your time. Like if, quote me on this, there's nothing more polyamorous than having a child. Like that's the most poly thing you can do. You are inviting a third person into your life that both of you is going to love slightly more than your original partner, and you have to suddenly make time for each other. Your new relationship energy is off the chain. So everybody does this, and then they act like it's so crazy to do it with adults, but
That's so interesting.
we're all just doing it all the time. Anyway, so yeah, I think my husband's amazing. He's really, really chill. I think in our 13 years, he's been jealous one time, and it was really early on. We're just establishing our boundaries. And when I wrote that book, we were earlier in our relationship. It's almost 10 years ago now. And I was just still learning what was going to be tricky for him. And very few things were. So it was shocking that it wasn't tricky for him. And I get more jealous. Like I definitely, it's harder for me when he goes out with somebody and he's just very tolerant of having to talk through all of that with me. And then we're in a configuration that's called kitchen table poly, which is like where everybody who's in the relationship circle feels comfortable sitting around the same table, which is in contrast to parallel polyamory, which is where you have a central relationship and all the relationships that each person is, engaging, they don't intersect in any way. I've never seen parallel work long term. Honestly, look, I've been saying this for 10 years. I've been like, someone reach out to me and tell me about your parallel thing that worked. And nobody ever has. So I feel like, hey, listeners, are you a person who you're like, oh, it's me. I've been doing parallel for longer than 2 years and it works great. And I think that's because there's this otherization that happens when your partner's dating somebody else, where you're reflexively competitive and also you want them to be like a sort of an antagonist. If you're not going to meet them, they're just going to remain this much more amazing person in your brain who is like a threat to your relationship with your person. And the second you meet them and sit down at a table, they become a human who is normal and flawed and interesting, and maybe someone you want to get to know also because your partner likes them. And it's just a completely different, it's a different experience. So yeah, I had this happen recently with my boyfriend where this a couple years ago when he met his partner at that time, and I met her, and just like meeting her made me more attracted to him because I felt like, wow, she likes him and I like her so much. And that's like helping our relationship in a way because I'm seeing him nurture a strong relationship with someone else, which is hot. So there's just kind of this, all that communication creates this very flexible, I'm doing with my hands little jellyfish, like, relationships.
Fluidity. Now, does your husband meet your boyfriend and his partner too? Like, is that the kitchen table?
Yeah, I mean, yes, like hard, yes. We just are all very in each other's lives. But he lives in Los Angeles, and they would just come stay with us.
Got it.
And that was so great because they were helpful. It's just like I want help, and then partners are helpful. And then my girlfriend, I think I'm also dating her husband, and they live down the street. We all kind of live in the same neighborhood, everyone in our little circle. And I don't know, proximity does help. And it's fun to have dates with more than two people. And I guess that's just like a little party that you get to have. And I don't know. I talked to a lot of people when I was writing Kin who were building families in different ways, like, 3 parents in one house, 1 kid, or just like a polycule where they live together, like 2 couples all dating each other, live together. Each couple has a baby. So there's 2 babies, 4 people, 1 house. And it's hard because first of all, there's no legal path for that kind of family. Like you are making that up. And if you want legal protections, like you want your husband's partner to be able to visit your daughter if she's in the hospital, for example, like you have to do all of this work to get there. There's just there's no way to that. And I think that expands to like, we need protections also for our close friendships. There are people, like my best friend lives across the street. She's been my best friend since we were 13. And if my kid is in the hospital, I want her to be like, and I'm at work and Luke's at work, I would like her to be able to go to the hospital and like care for my kid.
Yeah.
But she can't. And she's my friend. She's not like my partner, but she does, like, she's Aunt Jess. Like my daughter calls her Aunt Jess. And the state doesn't recognize anything like that. So it's tricky. You're making it up. You're figuring it out.
Yeah.
People make agreements. There's like lawyers who work with people in these configurations, but I don't know. It's an uphill.
Yeah.
It's an uphill battle.
Totally. I do have a question about, you mentioned your friend, Jess, Aunt Jess. When you meet other people out and about and you're not sure where it's going to lead, is it going to be a friendship? Is it going to be something more? And like you said, you kind of bucket all of those things under polyamory. Do you feel like it's healthy to keep your partners posted like every step of the way? Or do you sort of feel it out for yourself before you open up that conversation, keeping to the communication topic?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be different for different people. And so this is going to come to no surprise to you, I think. But like, it's a non-question. It's like of anything that happens, like I'm telling Luke within 5 minutes. Like I had somebody recently say something to me that affected my family and like affected me and my family. And she said, please don't tell your husband or your girlfriend. And I was like, well, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm going to tell them now. I'm like, as soon as I leave this convo, I'm going to go tell them this thing because we're a web. I just don't, for me, I'll say I have no secrets from Kat and Luke and Jess. Like all 3 of those people I just don't have them.
Yeah.
The secrets. But that took time to build that. And then there's some exceptions. Like, for example, Kat has a lot of close relationships and those people might ask her to keep something private and that doesn't have anything to do with me and she'll honor that. But I will say, I mean, everyone in marriage will tell you this, that like, there's nothing I'm not going to tell Luke.
Right.
I'm just going to tell him everything, every single little tiny little thing. Yeah, if I met someone I thought was cool, I think I'd immediately be like, I met someone I thought was cool. I want you to meet them right now. Let's have them for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, like, I haven't been thinking like in terms of maybe this will be romantic. Things do turn romantic, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And I just don't have the energy.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the jealousy. And honestly, you've answered some of what I was going to ask you about, just come up sort of naturally, but there's a couple of things that I'm curious to get your take on. First, I was surprised to learn there are, I think in your book, and you had that chart, there's 5 types of jealousy. And then you had like specific suggestions on how to handle each specific type. We don't have to go into each one. But I thought what was funny was the possessive jealousy. You were like, just get out. Just get out.
Yeah,
That's
get
the
out.
one that's not fixable.
That's the bad one.
Yeah. And then the others, there's things you can do to kind of, so if people are interested, check out the book Many Love.
It's the same chart as in Kin.
Okay,
So,
there you go. The newer book. Yes.
I just redrew it because I think I've gotten better at drawing since then.
There we go. Okay. And then you quoted a few people, Dan Savage, who talked about, what did he say? He said, if you can diffuse jealousy through communication and processing, that can actually help your relationship. So I think people like automatically think jealousy bad, but there are some things maybe that are positive about it. And then David Buss, who said jealousy indicates that the feeling of attachment still exists.
He wrote a book about jealousy, which I didn't love, but I did find interesting, and he had some biological research in there. His suggestion is that jealousy indicates that you feel attached in a way that's important to notice.
Yeah. So in a way, jealousy is a signal that maybe something needs to be communicated or talked about, but it's not necessarily just a bad, terrible thing to avoid or be afraid of. Fair?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pro jealousy. I think it's like a really, really good map. It tells you something. It always is telling you something that it talks about some unmet need or unmet want, but usually it's an unmet need because it's such an intense feeling. And so I'm always like, if I see it, it's like, oh, go toward that. Let's talk about like what's going on there. What are you needing? And a lot of times, like, there's one type of jealousy that is you're jealous of the other person. Like Luke is dating Rhonda, a fictional hottie who has really cool tattoos. Mm-hmm. And I'm feeling jealous of Rhonda. And I'm like, she has these tattoos and that's really what he wants. And he doesn't actually want me with my lack of tattoos. And I should get more tattoos to be more like Rhonda. That's like an issue of your self-acceptance, self-worth needing some work. Like you are worthy of love as you are. And so for some reason you're not believing that. Something's getting in the way. So there is so much that you can do independently or with a therapist or a counselor or a group or a friend to help build your self-worth. And that's really important. One of the things that also I think is really important in these configurations is, and that I see people not do this a lot, it makes me pretty angry when I think about it, is, and I got this tip from a woman who has been in polyamorous relationships for like over 50 years. And it's in the book, it's in the first book, but it's something like, whenever somebody's hurting, like having that feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, like Rhonda's so much better than me, like you stop that relationship, that Rhonda-Luke relationship, and everybody turns toward the hurting person and you deal with the hurting person. Your impulse as Luke is going to be defensive. Why are you upset? I love you so much. I've committed to you. I want to spend time with you. Like I live with you. I only see her once a week. Like what's the big deal? Like it's making me happy. Why can't you just be happy for me? And that is all going around that, oh, you're having big feelings. Your feelings make sense. Like, let's look at that and talk about it. And in fact, ideally, the 3 of us can look at it and work through it because there's no rush in this romantic relationship. The reason that this gets trampled is because new relationship energy chemically is so compelling. Yes. It makes you feel like, oh, this is so urgent. I have to be in this relationship now in this way. And like, I can't push pause. I have to keep going. It like, you feel addicted to it. You like really, really want to keep going. And so this is the sacrifice. This is the sacrifice happening, is where you're like, but the person I love and am committed to is hurting. And actually that's more important. And I am able to stop and pay attention to them. And usually it goes, that paying attention is all that's needed. It works itself out pretty quickly because if you're not stuck by yourself with your own whirling thoughts and you have these other people going towards you, then you're going to realize you're being a little bit silly and let Luke go date tattooed Rhonda. Actually, she's really cool.
Yeah. In the book Many Love, I wrote in my notes here the getting to know Melissa story, because I think that was an example. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, because these are all fake names. I'm like,
Yeah, who's
Melissa.
Melissa?
I remember
It was
her.
someone who I think you were feeling jealous of, and then
Yeah.
the solution was, well, let me meet Melissa and get to know Melissa, and that helped.
Oh yeah, that always helps. That always helps. And I get a lot of emails from people who are like, I'm having a problem. And the problem is I'm jealous of Melissa. And I'm like, well, have you met her? And then they're like, well, no, we're not. We're in a don't ask, don't tell configuration. We're in a parallel configuration. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you, because I know one solution that I am pretty sure is guaranteed to work, but you're not entertaining that solution. So I don't really know. I'm not a therapist, but I do know that it would work if you would meet this person. And people are just, although, I've been working with someone recently who did meet their partner's new partner. And it was good to meet her. And they liked each other. But because he started seeing this other person without the consent of his partner, he went behind her back to start seeing this other person. The trust was so deteriorated that wasn't what was needed. So that's a really good example of there's different needs for different situations. You can't go behind somebody's back and start dating somebody new and then come to someone and say, oh, by the way, I've been seeing someone for 4 months and I thought you were going to be cool with this because in couples therapy, you said you were open to polyamory. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. That's cheating. That's cheating. And polyamory is not just, hall pass permission to cheat. It's a totally different agreement to hyper communication with your partner, and you've done the opposite thing. And so even when they meet each other, this woman said, I really want him to pause that relationship. And he's like, but I need it. And she's like, God, it just feels like, they've been together for 20 years. She's like, it just feels like he's willing to throw away this for that, which is what is happening. So, he needed to stop and spend some
take care of the
more
hurt
time
person.
with her.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Another word, I feel like it's like there's jealousy, and then then this is the other word, commitment. And I'm curious what you think about this. Why do you think society treats monogamy and commitment as though they're the same thing? Or do you think they even do that?
They do. I mean, it's but it's like the canon. It's sort of that. It's the relationship fantasy. It's the romance myth. It's like the love stories that date back to Shakespeare, where it's like, you meet your person, you find your person, you love your person, you're committed to your person, and it's person singular, and that's every story. There's just not any other one. So the relationship escalator is meet, you like them, you fall in love, you get married, you get a house, you have kids, happy ending. Yep. But the movies are just that start point and not interested in these other points, which are horrible and messy, and nobody likes them, for a reason. And in fact, those upper parts are really fun with more people. It's really, really great when you have more people with the kids is better. I challenge you to find someone who disagrees. They might disagree conceptually, sure, but then you might want to ask that trad wife how many people she is hiring to help around her house, because it is not a 1 or 2 person job. Mm-hmm. So, traditionally, historically, people had their parents to help with their kids, and actually also their grandparents and their great-grandparents, because humans were having babies when they were 15. And then they didn't have cars, so they're just staying in the same little village. It just didn't evolve for this separated living that we're doing. It doesn't work. And then everyone's like, what's wrong with me?
Right. Why can't I do this?
Yeah, I've gone on a tangent. But I feel like that is that mononormative, heteronormative, rom-com myth. And I love a rom-com, pro rom-com. And also, those are just as fantastical as any of these dragon porns that people are reading these days. Yeah. I hope I'm sounding topical.
Yeah. I mean, movies, it's whenever you all of a sudden start to believe it's real, you create some problems because, like you
Right.
said, it's such the surface level and they're not diving into what actually is happening.
It's a nice story. It's
Yeah.
a good story, you know? It has the parts you want
Yeah.
for a story. So I think that is where the equating comes from.
Yeah. You mentioned that with your professional life, it's separate, right? Because of the way people react. What is it like telling friends and family about this, or do you sort of pick and choose who to tell?
Well, I'm so deep into it now. Like the people who I have known my whole life all know. So it's, it definitely wasn't my grandmother's favorite thing. But early on, it was, this is a phase. This is a phase. Like, let's check back in 3 years and see if you're still interested in multiple people or whatever. And then, well, lo and behold, yes. In fact, there's new people in the mix or whatever. With like new moms, that's just a whole new, this is like middle school. Like it's just I'm meeting all these moms, and the moms are, the thing we have in common is our child is the same age. And there's like this, surface level, like getting to know somebody before I'm like, actually my Instagram account is this. And as soon as they get there, they're going to know, because it's just known.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they peace out, and it's sad.
Was it, does it get easier to, like, now that you said you're deep into it versus early on, to tell people or talk about it?
Honestly, like, I think the reaction that I'm used to if I'm like, well, we're poly, which I try not to like drop that often, is kind of similar. Like, I also have spent most of my life vegan, really similar reaction of just like, oh, okay. Like, and it doesn't feel good to just say, I don't want to say, it's only going to come out if I need it to come out,
Yeah.
I guess or if I get close to someone. So it's not something I offer because, nobody ever, I don't think I've ever had the reaction of being like, I'm poly, and people go, oh, once, and I dated her. But like, it was just very like, it's very unusual. Usually there's just this like real, like sort of an eye roll, like physical distance. Like, I don't want to have I like want to get a little bit away from you because I think you're a little weird. And so I feel like I have to prove that I'm normal and competent. And, like, to be fair, to speak to that documentary, there are a lot of polyamorous people who are weird and are in really unhealthy relationships. Just like there are a lot of weird monogamous people who are in really unhealthy relationships. Right. Like, that's not the common denominator is the thing, Yeah.
Last thing about this too, because I'm just curious about it. Do you feel like in the beginning you did more educating versus now? Like, if people talked about it and now you're just like, it is what it is? Or
Oh, wow. I mean, so I went ahead and wrote a book about this, and I'll tell you what, I regret it.
Oh.
I slightly regret it. I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to be like a writer. And so that was, the book I was writing, Many Love, like hadn't been written yet. Like that kind of a poly memoir. There was like, this was pre-poly secure, but post-ethical slut. There were like books that were sort of about the logistics of sleeping with multiple people. And I wanted to talk about loving multiple people, which I thought was not something that was being covered in these conversations. And it still isn't, because it's not that interesting. It's like not right. To people. It's just not sexy. Like, people just like really do like to find the flaw.
Yeah.
And it's hard to when the thing is working so well. So I was kind of young, and I thought I want to do this book, and I wrote a book, and it got published. And at that point, yes, like education, I was doing a lot more podcasts like this and a lot more like articles, and felt like I was answering questions. And I feel like I know the answers to the questions now, but there's a part of me that's like, wow, I do sort of like, okay, I applied for a job at CPS, and later I got the job, but later in my relationship with my boss, she said, I almost didn't hire you because of your book, because I didn't know if it was appropriate for like high school children to know that their teacher had written a book about polyamory. And I was like, why? And she said, because it's like, sexual. And I didn't want them to associate their teacher with sex. And it's like that attitude that I sort of feel regret around, like cementing my career on that. But since then, like the thing I did after that was an audio project called Love Without Sex, where I really was like leaning into, no. I really want to talk about love and not sex. I like really want to talk about that. And then after that, I did a graphic memoir, and then I did Kin, which is about families. And this book, Kin, feels like this is really important to me. And I think we need this. Like, I think we need each other more than we want to say. And that this is actually available to everyone, regardless of their relationship style.
Yeah.
And I think there are things that monogamous nuclear family people can learn from poly people, and they should. And yeah, it still hasn't gone over that well, but nevertheless, I feel happy to have written, this one. So it's been a journey.
Sure. Okay, so let's wrap with our "it's going to be fine" moment. So I guess my question for you on that note is there anything you're optimistic about? You said earlier that it might be worse off than it is now in terms of people's understanding or acceptance of polyamory, but is there anything you're optimistic about for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I am optimistic. I feel like, this is always true. I think this was true of, my parents' generation, and then of the one in between, and then of my generation, is that I think we're always trying to break cycles and like care for our children better than whoever raised us. I think that has been ongoing, I do notice that when I put out there, like, the village is in danger and we need each other, like, nobody is pushing against that. People are like, yes, and like, how do I do it? And I'm ready, and I want to do it, and I want more people. And like, I think people are really open to that particular kind of change. And that is important because, like, the children are going to grow up, and then they're going to do something really different than we are doing. Over time, we have moved away from our families of origin. Mm-hmm. Like, just as a species, we're more far away than we ever have been before, for better or worse. And I do see people building their friend groups into families in an unprecedented way. And more adults living with roommates, and more people, being open to, co-ops, and more people who are doing, multiple household Costco memberships, which seems like nothing, but is something. And yeah, all of this makes me think, like, okay, we do on some really deep level know that we belong to each other. And I think you see it anytime there's a natural disaster, when someone is hurting at turning toward the hurting party, which might be Los Angeles has burned down. It might be, this community is really affected by COVID. It might be like we have massive floods. That's, more and more common. We are, as a species, generally, it's really hard to see this in this administration, but generally as a species are good at turning toward that and saying, what can I do? I'm here, like, let me give you money or time or help. And I feel really positively about that. Mm-hmm. I think, that's a sea over a droplet type of internal understanding. Plus, the more I learned about how social we are and how, like, kind of biologically programmed we are to take care of each other, the more I think that people are going to trend this way, because we inherently want to go toward each other. Even introverts like me, we want to go toward each other.
Yeah. I mean, and you kind of tied it all together, because what you said in the beginning about polyamory, the jealousy piece, and how it really is about making sure everyone is okay, turn towards the hurting. And maybe if we lead with that.
Yeah, you saw that, huh? Did that on purpose.
I did. Yes, clock. Wonderful. Well, Sophie, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on to talk about this topic. The most recent book is Kin.
Yep. Kin, the future family.
And for people who want to learn more or follow you,
yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Sophie Lucido Johnson. That's probably your
the best bet. Okay.
Best bet. Yeah.
All right. Well, check that out. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
And to all the listeners, we'll see you next time.